Today, active thinking and the pattern, the precise act of directing thinking upon the pattern. How active thinking develops the pattern toward its physical expression, and what it means for the development of the pattern when thinking is directed precisely. This is the 7-minute daily focus. Day 149 of 365 to focus on the world within from the world without. Today's focus, the law of pattern, active thinking and pattern. Pause for a moment. 9 days in. Recognition is established. The pattern is perceived through the first sense. The inner sight is clear. Today, active thinking and the pattern, the precise act of directing thinking upon the pattern. How active thinking develops the pattern toward its physical expression, and what it means for the development of the pattern when thinking is directed precisely. Pause. Active thinking is the deliberate, intentional direction of thinking toward what is within. You understand this from the law of seed, but now understand it precisely within the law of pattern. Active thinking is the consistent return of thinking to the pattern, not a single act, not the morning practice alone, the sustained recurring direction of thinking upon the thought that contains the pattern. Throughout the day, each return is active thinking practiced. Each practice develops the pattern. Each development advances the pattern toward its physical expression. Thought is within, effect is without. Thinking stands between. Pause for a moment. Active thinking upon the pattern is distinct from thinking about conditions. The thinker who thinks about conditions is directing thinking towards secondary reality, toward what has already expressed, toward the law of the physical. And secondary reality has no power to develop the metaphysical pattern. It can only reinforce what is already seen. The thinker who directs thinking upon the pattern is directing thinking toward primary reality, toward what is already complete within, toward the metaphysical structure of what will physically express. And this is the only direction of thinking that develops the pattern. Active thinking upon the pattern, not about conditions upon the pattern. Pause for a moment. Consider the image of sunlight and a lens. Sunlight spread broadly across a surface produces warmth. Sunlight concentrated through a lens onto a precise point produces fire. The same sunlight, but the concentration changes everything. Active thinking is the lens. It takes the thinking that is available and concentrates it upon the pattern, upon the precise metaphysical structure within the thought. And that concentration, that directed, sustained attention upon the pattern, accelerates its development, not by adding to the pattern. The pattern is already complete. By the intensity and consistency of thinking directed upon what is already complete. Pause. Active thinking upon the pattern is also cumulative. Each morning of directed thinking adds to the development of the previous morning. Each return through the day adds to the development of the morning practice. The pattern does not develop in a single session. It develops across sessions, across days, across the consistent, sustained practice of directing thinking upon the thought that contains it. This is the mathematics of the daily practice. 7 minutes daily sustained is not nothing. It is the compounding of development. Each day of practice adds to the development of all the days before, and the accumulation of that development is what moves the pattern from metaphysical reality to physical expression. Pause for a moment. There is a practical quality to active thinking that is worth understanding. Active thinking is not strain. It is not forcing the mind to hold a position against resistance. Active thinking, when aligned with the recognized pattern, feels like return, for want of a better phrase, like resting upon something already there, because the pattern is already there, already complete, already real. The thinker is not pushing toward something distant. They are resting upon something present. And when the practice is built on recognition through the first sense, active thinking is the natural continuation of perceiving what has been recognized. Not effort, but continuation. Pause. And through the day, when the mind drifts toward conditions, when the five senses draw thinking outward, the return to the pattern is always available. The moment the thinker recognizes that thinking has moved toward without, the return to the pattern is the return to active thinking, not with frustration, not with judgment, with the simple act of returning. Each return is active thinking practiced, and each practice of active thinking adds to the development of the pattern. Without exception, not doubtfulness, not struggle, not force, you are not pushing the seed. Not pressure, you are not trying to make it happen, but steadfastness, focused. Remain aligned with what is within. Do not be moved by what is physically seen, because what is physically seen is always secondary to what is unfolding. Now, the affirmation for day 149. Pause for a moment. I direct active thinking upon the pattern, full, intentional, sustained, not toward conditions, upon the pattern that is already complete within. The thought is held before the first sense. The pattern is clearly perceived. And thinking rests upon what is already there, not straining towards something absent, but resting upon something present. Each morning the practice concentrates thinking upon the pattern. Each return through the day adds to the development. The accumulation of consistent directed thinking develops the pattern toward its physical expression. And because active thinking is sustained, the pattern develops deeply. And because it develops, it unfolds. And what unfolds must physically express. Remember, by design, by focus.